Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for coming to join Cliniko and Coffee. I'm the founder of Cliniko and my background is software development, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have for me about Cliniko. And also during this session, which I'm most excited for, I'm going to be making some coffee as well. Knowing that this session was coming up, I haven't had a coffee yet today and I'm well overdue. So I'm going to get into that part of it. And I'm happy to answer any questions from anyone. I'm interested whereabouts people are from. If anyone wants to share in the comments where you're from, maybe if you're a practitioner, what modality or what other role you have in healthcare space, or otherwise maybe you just like coffee and we're interested on that front. Really keen to know. Now while that happens and some questions start to come through, importantly, I said we'll be sharing some coffee in this session, so I've got it set up here so you can watch the coffee making process while I answer your questions. You might notice it's not an espresso coffee that I do, so I personally like filter coffee, and the tool I use for it is a V60, which you can see here. If you have any questions about that, happy to answer them too. I like to see someone in the comments saying they're grabbing a coffee too. It's good if we can share one together. And while I don't have any Cliniko questions yet, and I'm starting to make coffee, I have a coffee tip for people. So I'm making a V60 and we've got to put the paper in here to filter the coffee through. So it looks like someone here at least is a V60 maker as well. What I wanted to share is I found, if you can bear with me while I disappear for just a second, there's two types of papers that are commonly available for V60. Some come in the box like this, and you'll find some come in a bag like this one here. And I highly recommend the box version. It's actually a different type of paper and it brews a little bit differently, and I find it's much nicer. As for ideal recipe ratio for V60, so if I get a new bean, I'll always start with 24 grams coffee, 400 ml water, and I'll start on 90 degrees water. And the coffee I'm about to brew is this one here. This is from Proud Mary, which is a roaster in Melbourne. It's a Panama Geisha coffee. So I've got a question, can we take payment from clients when rebooking a client? So at the moment in Cliniko, the only types of payments we have is in online bookings, you can do a credit card payment. And also there is the like high caps and Medicare transactions you can do via MediPass. We are working on more types of payments into Cliniko and through a variety of ways. So we definitely want to have it. You can send out an invoice with a payment link on it. And we started working towards that. And we're also working on having a terminal within Cliniko that you can process a credit card payment by entering the number into it as well. And you don't even need to have an actual physical terminal to process the payments. Both of those have started. I don't know how far away they'll be, but payments is a big focus for us at the moment. Now I've just got to weigh out my beans, as I mentioned. It's 124 grams, for those that were asking. The merits of V60 over Aeropress. So, for those that don't know, so this is V60 that I'm doing at the moment, and Aeropress is this one here that's also popular for doing filter coffee. The main difference is that with the Aeropress, it's got a set brew time. So you pour the water into it, you leave it for say 2 minutes or whatever time it is before you push out the water through the coffee. Whereas with the V60, it's just gravity fed. You put the coffee in and the water's going to go straight through it. I would say the V60 is a little harder to do. You've got to be much more careful with your coffee grind, you know, how coarse it is and how you do the pour. But I find you get a cleaner coffee through it, so I enjoy it more. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done, but I find it's quite a clean coffee and I personally like V60. How much does a little jar like that cost? If it's this one here, so this one is a premium coffee. This one would be about $30 Australian for a jar like that. But it's an out of the ordinary coffee, that one. All right. Electronic signatures, are they coming anytime soon, is a question coming through. So absolutely they are. I've seen the work. I think it's just about ready to go out. I'm not sure what's still holding it up. I know the work on getting the signature built into the form was done and how we present it. So I assume there's just some little tweaks going on and maybe final testing, and that will get put out. So electronic signatures are really close to going live. Now I do need to just grind the coffee quickly. So if you have headphones on, just a little warning that it could be loud for just a second. Can you have two patient lists, current and archived? Well, you can archive patients at the moment, and they're kind of separate. I guess I probably need to know more details for that one. What are you looking to do with current versus archived? What do you want to, because you can also export your patients to a spreadsheet and you could look at current or archived. So Robin, just maybe if you give me a bit more detail, I could help out a little bit with that. It's a question about the grinder. It is a Melconic, it's the EK43. Someone, another coffee question, asked if I have any of the new release Whoosh Whoosh yet. I don't. I had Whoosh Whoosh recently that was exceptional, but I haven't got the latest one yet. Plans to fully integrate with Stripe to vault cards and automatically charge individuals. So the next step with the Stripe integration that we're planning is to be able to attach it to an invoice so you can get people to pay. So that will be for any session, not just online bookings, but actually storing the card in a vault and doing sort of recurring payments. I would guess it would come, but we don't have immediate plans for that, so it won't be the next stage of payments that we're doing. I'm just rinsing the paper here before I pour the coffee through. Will Cliniko allow more than 3 clients into group bookings? I assume you mean for telehealth, because in a normal sort of class or group booking, you can have as many as you want. For telehealth, I don't know. The technology is available, obviously, to do greater than 3 people in a session, but we need to do it in a different way. So the way we do all our telehealth calls at the moment is direct peer-to-peer, meaning all of the browsers of the people that are on the telehealth call are just connecting to each other directly. Whereas if we want to go more than 3 people in a call plus the practitioner, then we probably need to do a server-based solution where we're running, the call on servers that we host, and then people join and connect to it. There's definitely advantages to doing a server-based call. There's the ability for us to record calls, as an example, once it's going through our servers. We can improve the reliability of connections a little bit when people are connecting to us first and then to each other, whereas at the moment when you're just connecting directly, there's kind of less we can do. And of course you can handle more people in a call as well, but it's quite different. We don't have immediate plans for it. I guess we'll have to see, how many people are needing bigger telehealth calls before we work out if it's worth going down the path of, building out the infrastructure to do server-based calls. There's also been some perception on launch of on the growing of telehealth lately. A lot of people have been kind of hooked on the fact that it needs to be direct peer-to-peer encrypted to be secure. And whilst it probably is the most secure, it's not absolutely required, and you can certainly have secure server-based implementations too, like Cliniko is generally. So I think that even from a perception side to start with, it made a lot of sense just to be direct peer-to-peer, and it's something we'll consider as time goes on. Getting quite a lot of questions, so I will do my best to work through them. Someone's asking about Classpass, Fitness Passport. They integrate with MindBody. It's not something that I'm aware of, Classpass. Typically those kind of integrations happens from the other side. We have an API available and they can integrate with us. I assume that's what probably happened on the MindBody front. it'd be worth reaching out to them and asking them if they're interested to integrate with Cliniko, and certainly we can chat to them if they are and work out what would make sense with it. Someone's asking, are we looking at an option to create a pending booking? I don't know what you mean by a pending booking, so I might just need more info from the person that asked that one, so I could answer that. Clients in multiple time zones, that's a very topical question. So especially with telehealth coming about and the opportunity to start servicing clients that aren't actually just in your local region, a lot of people are starting to see patients and clients either within the country in different regions or overseas potentially, depending on laws and regulation that allows you to do so. Right now our time zone handling is poor. It doesn't work well for having someone in a different time zone booking or practitioners in different time zones. We've actually been working on fixing that since nearly the same time we started working on telehealth, which is probably a couple of months at least now. It turns out that time zones are so ingrained in every little part of Cliniko, how we present a date and time, that it's been a huge undertaking for us. So there's a task in progress at the moment, and we're getting there on improving time zones and having it handle nicely. So the idea is that when someone goes to book in online bookings, they'll see it in their own time zone, and within Cliniko itself, you'll see it in your time zone with the option to see it in someone else's if you need to. Let's say someone in a different time zone calls you on the phone and wants to make a booking, the ability to view their time zone to help them out with that. So that is all coming and it's underway again, but considering how long it's taken us so far, I would guess there's still a bit to go on it. Question about letter template options, more fonts, text sizes. So letter templates, I would say, and the way that they're formatted and printed, it needs work, no question, it needs work. They don't look great, and we just haven't got back to it and found the time to improve on them yet. It's something we're planning to do. So, we're not happy with how they currently sit, but it's also been hard to prioritize it amongst, other features that we've been working on. It's one of the things that will probably be, just while I'm doing this, I'm just doing the bloom for the coffee for anyone that does make filter coffee. So you pour a bit of water in the start and give it a stir to get the gases out before you do the rest of the pour. There's probably a lot of things that people are going to ask about that has a similar answer, which is along the lines of there's a lot of things that we agree in Cliniko need improvement. We're far from done with it, but we have a team. I think we have in the vicinity of 15 developers or so that work on it every day, and it's just it's hard to find the time to do all the things that are needed. It's such a comprehensive application now, has a lot of features, a lot of parts, and a lot of different people using it, that it does get hard to get to all the bits we want to do, and letters falls in that category. It needs some work. We will do some formatting and fonts and things like that, but I'm not sure when that will be yet. So someone's asking about cases. It's possibly an export of the databases of cases or a report showing all cases. So I didn't even recall if we put cases into a data export or not. I know there's people in the Cliniko team that are watching this chat. If someone can make a note of the exporting of cases, I'll check into it. We always want the ability to get all of the data that you have in Cliniko out into spreadsheet files, either for your own analysis or if you decide to move to a different system. So I'll check up on cases after this session's finished, and if there's not a way to do that already, then we can prioritize that, because that is always very important. An update to allow files to be grouped into folders. Definitely we will update the files area. We've talked about it a few times. We don't have progress on it, and I would say it's probably not one that's coming too soon, because I know there's a lot ahead of it. I don't know if it'll be grouped into folders, if they'll be tagged and searchable. Anytime we go to do a redesign like that, we kind of, first step will be to design, to dive into what are people wanting to do with it. So as an example, someone else here is asking, can it be put into folders to help with organizing files? So I'm keen to know why. What are you going to put it into folders for? What are you going to do with those folders? What types of folders would you create? How do they help you? And once we know that, we can then, go to the design part of it and say, okay, is folders the best solution for it, or is there another thing that might work better for you? And also, there's a bit of a balance of, what's the best solution for it? And then we have to weigh up what are people already familiar with and what's already a common practice, because to go against a common practice or something people are familiar with has a cost, and we'll balance up those two. But the summary is, yes, we'll improve the files area. I'm just not sure yet what that's going to look like. I'll just do my last pour bit of the coffee. I've done 300 ml, I'm just doing 100 ml more. When we discharge patients, can we list those rather than have them patients without upcoming appointments? So this is a question around if someone's actually completed their treatment, you want to flag it in some way. I assume that's related, and perhaps the person that asked the question about discharge can let me know. Is that related to sort of tracking repeat bookings? I'm just trying to work out why you would want to have them in a separate place for discharge, and is it so that they're not sort of penalising you against your rebooking rates? Or is there another reason that you would want to have them as a separate discharge? So questions are going pretty fast here. I've just got to get on to scrolling them up now. There's a question on, can practitioners receive appointment reminders? It seems like only the patient receives. So I'm not sure exactly. It kind of is what's going to be the answer to it. So one other task that we have on the go at the moment, we're kind of calling a bit generic notifications, but it's the ability to do sort of custom notifications for a practitioner or for your business to alert you of certain things that occur in your clinic. So an example could be an appointment's created, could be a patient arrived. We're looking at an example of if a patient does an online booking and they put a note in the online booking, sometimes it's hard to keep track of that, and you want a proactive alert to let you know that that's occurred. So we're working on notifications in Cliniko in general, and we're looking at sending them out via a variety of forms. So you might be able to get them via email, and there could be some other formats that we send out the notifications to you in as well. But yeah, so you'll be able to configure at a business level, you can configure notifications. So you can say, for this particular location, I want these notifications to go to this place, in case perhaps you have different email addresses per location. And then also each user will be able to configure their own notifications. A question about letterhead options, because the logo doesn't look as professional as a company letterhead. Agreed. At the moment, so I'll be back in 1 sec. I've just got to throw out the coffee grind. Bear with me a moment. Back. At the moment, you need to use a logo to put a letterhead on top of the letters that you do, and you can sort of hack it and make a logo that's really wide with all of your letterhead information in it and put that at the top. But like this person's mentioning, it's not ideal. So we do want to put in proper letterhead options. Again, we haven't started to work on it. We haven't looked at a design for it. And that means it's probably not too soon, and I'm not quite sure how it will actually sort of manifest and end up being. But we are keen to do so. A question about outstanding invoice report grouped by balance rather than individual invoices. Quite possibly, probably that one's a good, if you don't mind, because I think there's got to be more discussion around that one particularly. We do have a community site, it's community.cliniko.com, and there's a feature request page on there as well. And we do see and read all the feature requests that come through there. And for one like that I feel like a few people will probably want to talk about, it's probably a good place to put it. I expect that's something that we would want to do, but needs more discussion and isn't something that I personally know a lot about either. Someone asking about the slowdown issues that we had over the last couple of weeks. So anyone that's using Cliniko in Australian hours, so I'm just going to find a mug. Anyone that's using Cliniko in Australian hours is probably aware that we had some slowness issues. I think it was now 2 weeks ago, and we had it for 4 out of 5 days. over a short period. So we didn't exactly work out the cause of it. We got pretty close, and we can see indicators for it, and we worked out how to avoid it. But I can't say that we absolutely nailed the cause of the issue. We know it was to do with our database. We know that there was issues with the database at that time, and we knew there were certain things that would trigger it. So we've done some work, and we've put some automated scripts in place now that every day run some tasks on the database that prevent it occurring. But it's not a full long-term solution. It just means that we're not having the slowness now. So Cliniko now is running at full speed, with the slight exception that during 10 a.m. to midday Australian Eastern Standard Time, we do slow down some jobs that aren't urgent. So that could be creating reports, it could be your reminders that go out, or if you're exporting data in a spreadsheet or something like that. Those have been slowed a little bit to allow Cliniko to get through that really busy time in the day, which is our peak hour. And in the meantime, we've made sure that Cliniko is not slow for you anymore. And then we're working on a big change to the infrastructure for the database that should solve the problem properly and long term, and mean we can remove those workarounds that we have for now. So I expect that we're onto it. We can see the causes for the problem, and we've got things to stop it happening, and you shouldn't experience it. And probably in the next month or so, we'll have a little maintenance period on a weekend for us to migrate the database and have a full solution for it. Asking will it be possible in future to attach video notes to treatment notes? Possibly. I haven't given thought to it. I know we've got plans to enhance the treatment notes, and we want to bring formatting into the treatment notes. And we've also looked at embedding images into the treatment notes as well. So I don't see a reason why video would be anything particularly different to that. But I haven't given it any thought yet. So I'd say possibly, but not planned at all or anything like that. Question again, linking invoicing to Stripe. So we're working on it. I don't have an ETA for it, but it's definitely something that we want to do, is adding the pay with Stripe to your invoices. And there should be another payment option as well, not just Stripe. Asking about capability to email patients individually like SMS. We don't have at the moment. Potentially we could do it. Emailing is a complicated one, strangely much more complicated for us to do than just sending an SMS, partly because of the way that if we send it from your email address, there's some workarounds we need to do to make sure it gets delivered, because we're kind of pretending to be you to send it, and some email carriers will block it. So we do have some workarounds you might have seen already. When your reminders and things go out, it actually goes from a Cliniko address with the reply to set to you, and the name of it will say via Cliniko, so that they know if they add it to the address book, it's not you. So maybe we bring in single emailing, but I'm not sure, because of the complexity with email. It makes it a bit harder for us. There's a question about sharing notes between clinicians but managing privacy from admin. We're at the moment revising and having a look at the privacy of treatment notes across practitioners. I expect we'll have some changes coming to it, but I don't know what they will look like at the moment. But it's something that's become a hotter topic of late for sure. A coffee question. There's a tool behind me on the shelf that looks like a little pour over. So I don't know which one. If you're looking at the over on the side there is some small pour overs. I'll show you some different ones here. So the one I used was a 2-cup V60, it's called, and this is a single cup V60, so it's just a smaller version. If you're doing a smaller quantity of coffee, you could use it. I have another one that's just a different style. I don't know if you can see that if I get it closer, a different style of filter. And that one's a Polish one, but it's harder to get the papers that fit it. And then there's one that I find particularly good as a travel one. This one you can get from a cafe, Industry Beans in Melbourne. It's called Gold Mesh. And the way this one works is you just put your coffee inside there, straight on the mesh filter. You don't need paper. You put this in on top, and it's got some little holes that you pour the water into, and it will actually slowly drip the water through the coffee for you automatically, and you can just sit that on your mug, and that's a super easy way of doing a pour over. You just need to make your coffee a bit finer for that one. A question of someone doing a trial: who owns the data, and is there a limit to data storage? So you own your data. We don't claim any ownership of the data. We are just the custodian for you, and there's no limit to the data storage in Cliniko. Are we looking at creating rooms in Cliniko? Sorry, just give me 1 second. So we do want to have rooms in Cliniko. It's a challenging one because it's significantly different to how our calendar is set up at the moment. It requires a lot of work for us to be able to change and set up to rooms. We were looking at a workaround for it. I'm just going to switch back while I'm not making coffee. We were looking at a workaround for it where instead of adding rooms, perhaps we just add a resource to an appointment. So you could set up your rooms as resources and link them to appointments so that you make sure you're not double booking, and maybe they could be color coded or something on the calendar. And that would also give you the option to use it for, like, if you've got a machinery or some particular item in the clinic that could only be used by one person at a time, then you could use it for that. So it's sort of double purpose. We haven't made any progress on it, and I'm not sure it's something we're going to work on just yet, but it's kind of our thought process around it at the moment. I don't think it's a replacement for doing rooms properly long term, but again, being a big task, I'm not sure when we're going to be able to get to that. So what else we got? Is there a way of integrating information filled in on forms to integrate with the patient profile? So this is something working on currently. We're in the design phase for this one at the moment. So this is the ability that if you do a patient form and you want someone to be able to enter their name or date of birth or address or something like this, and that gets pulled across into the patient record properly, for that to work. So like I said, we're designing it right now. We're redesigning the sort of form builder to allow for this kind of thing and to make it a bit easier, which is the step we're in now. And then we've just got some considerations to make, which I'm not sure the result of yet on a security side of things. Because if we let's say you let a patient put their phone number and address into the form, well, what happens, excuse me, what happens if someone does an online booking and then they come back 2 months later, do an online booking? Do you want that form to show their existing address and phone number that they can then change it or leave it? Or if we don't do that and we leave it blank, what happens if they enter one? Does it override it, or if they leave it? So I personally think it would be nice if it showed them their existing address and phone number for them to change, but there's a security impact of doing so. How do we know that we're sending this to the right person, and is there a risk that we're sending information out to someone else, and effectively a data leak? So we have some ideas of solutions. Maybe it'll be some kind of two-factor authentication on sending the form out, where maybe they also get a text message that verifies them or something like that. But it's one of those ones where it's a simple need to be able to pull the patient information into the record, but the ramifications once we start to do it balloon out a little bit, and that's where, like I said, at the moment for that one, we're in the design stage. But it's going to happen, or at least I'd say it's very likely, unless something really becomes a showstopper in the design stage, and should be one that's coming up very soon. Someone's asking about invoicing 2 services to different practitioners on the same day. So we don't have any plans at the moment to be able to send out multiple invoices to 2 different people sort of automatically. Maybe that's one, again, that either for our community site in the feature request area, or even just contact our support team with more details. I think we'd have to really dive in to understand what you're trying to do and how you'd want it to work to be able to answer that one properly. I saw someone ask if my coffee's any good. It's not great. It's okay, but it was actually too slow a brew. So one of the problems with the pour over, like I mentioned before, is you're really in control of how it gets extracted. And with coffee at a basic level, if you under extract it, you're going to lack flavor. If you get the sweet spot, it's going to be really nice. And then if you over extract it, you start to get the bitterness and that burnt taste coming through. And that's kind of the direction mine headed in. It was a slow pouring bean and it went for too long, so it's a little bit over extracted. Can I add an area for non-practitioners to make clinical reception notes? Probably we will. We tried to attempt to do this a while ago, and because it was a big task, we kind of did a stopgap, and that's when we brought in the appointment notes, the ability to make a note that appears on all the appointments for a particular client. It's not a complete replacement, I know, and that's probably why you're still asking for it. So it's still, it's still around and still something we think we would do. But after we did the appointment notes, that solved the problem for a lot of people, and it sort of bumped it down the list in priority. So I think that's one that would be not too soon. Someone's asking about prepayment options. So if you're referring to like packages and prepayments on that front, it's something that's been discussed and wanting to be done for quite a long time in Cliniko, and we hadn't really made much progress. At the moment, we're working on a few payment changes because one of the other sticking points is that it's hard to see someone's account balance properly and work out how they got to that point. And as people doing payments in Cliniko probably know, it's also hard to process a refund in Cliniko. Those two things are being worked on right now and have had a lot of progress made, and they do lead towards prepayment being easier. So whilst we're not working on it yet, some of the things that have stopped us from working on it are going to be solved very soon. Someone's saying the facility choose email or SMS patient confirmation booking instead of just email. Maybe. I'd be interested to know what the reason for that is. I'm not sure. There's people in our team that are helping feed me through these questions. If responses come to them, maybe if you can reply them or something so I see. But I'm interested what you want an SMS appointment confirmation to do. The reason we send them out via email is because we can attach a calendar invite to it so that they can actually book it into their calendar right away. Because the problem with just a reminder is if they didn't book out the time and the reminder comes, then they've double booked and they might call up and cancel the appointment. Whereas if they get the confirmation in the email, they book it out in advance. If we send an SMS confirmation, we can't have the same calendar file attached to it. So it's kind of like they just book and then get told, yes, you booked, which is why we didn't have it so far. But obviously you have a need. If you could explain a little more around it, then I could address that. Someone's asking about a table in patient reports to track range of motion over time. This is something we want to do. We actually had a go at it a few years ago and it ended up getting shelved, I don't think for any particular strong reason. And that was putting in sort of health data points into the patient record that you could put in, and then we could chart them over time, which I assume is the kind of thing you're talking about. So I would like to have it. I think it's also nice because it can integrate with sort of patient devices as well. Like you got like Health Kit on the Apple devices that they have their health app that you can store the data points in. So maybe it could integrate with that and allow patients to also submit information that gets tracked in there, but no progress at the moment on it. Adding clinicians to cases. So this is another one. Someone's asking, can they add clinicians to cases so that all clinicians added have access to the notes? We're going to need to redo the privacy around notes at some point. I think we do get some requests about it, so obviously it's not handling all use cases. I don't know what the solution will be, whether it's adding them to the case or something else, but I'm sure we can find something. Will there be a push available to go backwards from Outlook to Cliniko? I'm trying to think what you mean by that. A push to go backwards from Outlook to Cliniko. Is that, I'm not sure if you mean like if a patient replies to your email that goes to your Outlook that it ends up in Cliniko or something. We don't have anything planned for anything like it, but maybe if you can elaborate a little bit on that, then I could have a go at it. When adding treatment notes in the appointment drop-down box, we have to select a date, but the dates are out of order. Is there a way to get the dates in order? I'll need to check in on that again. Maybe if someone from our team can just put a note for that one. I assume it might be that the appointments are getting sorted by something else like practitioner or category or type, but we can check into that. That was Francine. We'll have a look. Also with those kind of things, I would say it's a good one that you can always send to our support team through the help button in Cliniko. If you find something like that that seems to be behaving odd, feel free to send it through like that as well. A question about having young children having the parent details as part of the profile. Yes, we want to do something. I don't know what the solution will look like. We haven't really spent any time to go through and think about that thoroughly. I know there's a need in pediatrics for it. So yes, I would like to do, but we haven't spent time on it, and I don't think it's something that's coming too soon, I'm afraid to say. Someone's saying, this Adrian, not sure why, but if you create a contact in cases, it does not add it to the contact list. It should. That's something maybe we can flag, and we'll have a look at that as well afterwards. And again, a good one that if you experience something like that, just send it through to us, through Cliniko, would be good, and we can chase those kind of things up. Got another one, Alison, would love to be able to export a list of participants' details from a group booking. At the moment, the spreadsheet only spits out a list of names and emails. I need the addresses too. Alison, for that one, maybe can you provide some more information what you are doing with that? Because often what I find is if you're trying to export it out to a spreadsheet or something, maybe there's an end goal you're trying to achieve, that we can help you achieve the end goal instead of just helping you get it across to that part. So maybe if you can provide some more info on what you want to do with it. We've got someone asking for an improvement, which is in our date picker to separate the year, so that if it's a date in the past, you don't have to keep clicking previous months. Again, I think we can flag that one as something we can have a look at. If someone in our team could do so, we can check that out. I think that would be a really nice improvement to the date picker to make it faster to get back to old dates for sure. Rebecca's asking about a notification when a new message or comment on the dashboard occurs. Maybe we can make a note for that one if someone in our team can as well on Rebecca's one. Like I said before, we are working on notifications, and I think a new message on the dashboard would be a great sort of catalyst for a notification, so we could put that into that task. I see no problem with that. So someone's saying the calendar is difficult to navigate well. If I want to go easily between patients, I find it difficult to compare past appointments that a former Cliniko worked better. So that's Chantel. Probably again, Chantel, maybe if you can provide some more info, and either if you want to do it here in the comments, or if you want to send it through to our support team helping Cliniko, just probably have to understand more what you're trying to do. It looks like you're trying to compare, maybe it's for a single patient, I'm not quite sure. Any more info would be good. Keith is asking about a patient arrival notification to Slack. I think that's very doable. What else have we got? When adding a new patient who's related to another, is there an option to copy paste the full details, husband and wife, across? So we can note that one as well and have a look at it. I'm not sure, always when we're sort of copying or merging information between two different patients, it's hard to do without risking overriding information. So we do have a merge patient option because it's necessary. With this one, I'd have to have a look at it. I don't know. We need to make sure that the value of having it exceeds the risk of losing information if it didn't go well. Someone's saying that they want a report that combines appointment data with invoice data so they don't have to run both. So first up, yesterday we released a new report that is all appointments that don't have invoices. So if you're using it for that purpose, you could check out the new report we just released. Have a look at that, see if that does what you need. And if not, again, probably it's something if you can provide more info on why you do it and what you're trying to achieve. And then we can look at whether an export that you're talking about is the best way, or maybe there's something else we can do that help you out with it. Assigning a recall to a user in the near future. I think that in general, the recalls need some work. They again are probably a bit of a stopgap where it allows you to track it, but they're not the best solution. If we're able to find the time to properly step back and have a look at recalls and how should they operate and all the bits to go with it, I think there'll be a fair bit of redesign to go on the recall front. Someone's asking about dictating their notes directly into Cliniko. So it's pretty easy to do it using your device features already. So for example, if you're using an iPhone, on the keyboard already via Siri is a microphone that you can press, and if you talk into it, it'll actually translate that to text and enter it into any field that you have open on your screen. and that works in Cliniko just fine. So you can already use Siri to dictate, and I'm pretty sure that Android phones have the same, iPads, even many of the desktops also have it built in with Siri or Cortana now that can do dictation. The only thing to check with it is you need to read the terms of service and make sure that it's compliant for you to use. Because a lot of them, I'm pretty sure that Apple and Siri do it, is they send and store your voice recording on their servers, and I think that's not compliant for health records. So you would need to check that. And if not, see if there's a health compliant dictation service. It's unlikely we build it ourselves, but there's no reason that any existing one wouldn't work in Cliniko. Someone's asking again about adding rooms. So we do want to, but it's a significant change that I don't think will come soon. But we're looking at an easier option, which would be adding resources to appointments. And that might do enough for the short term that you can make a room a resource and allocate it to appointments. But still, that's not happening right away. It's worth noting. There's a question, show the next appointment due top to bottom in date order within the patient appointments. I'm not sure what order they're listed at the moment. We are working on some changes for tables in general in Cliniko, and I think that sorting might be something that becomes an option to you rather than just us setting what the order of the sort is. So I expect that probably solves the problem for you with that one. How long will I keep an opened bag of beans, and do I keep to an expiry period? So I think that for myself, I look more at the time since roast than how long since I've opened it. And it also maybe depends on the container. So I have a variety of types of containers for beans. So this is more ordinary, the coffee bag, and it has those little holes, I don't know if you can see it, that lets the one-way valve that lets the gases out of it. And then you have like a tin like this one here, and they also poke a hole in the bottom that allows the gases out. And then I've got these ones recently, which I'm not sure on, and it comes just in a jar, and there's no way to get the gases out. So maybe these ones I would worry to keep them too long. But other than that, I think that from like 5 days from roasting, usually they're ready, and then probably up to about 2 or 3 weeks, they're good. But maybe within the first 2 weeks is when I find they're at their best. I'll just grab, there was another coffee question as well. There's a tool 2-in, looks like a science experiment. This one is similar to the V60 that I was using. Main difference is it uses a gold mesh cone instead of the filter paper, and it means that the water runs through much faster, so you have to go a lot finer. I find this one nice aesthetically, but I struggle to make a good coffee with it. So I've got one that the front desk reception needs to know a form's been filled but not actually view the form itself. I think that will be solved with the new notifications that we're working on. We'll be able to put all sorts of triggers for like businesses, or which could be for reception and individual people, and I think that will solve that problem. So there's a question about linking letters to certain stages within cases. I think that sort of workflows around cases will need to improve. Again, it's something that we did relatively quickly when we were releasing our Medicare integration, because it was required to be able to make the checkout for Medicare quite fast. But we didn't really spend a huge amount of time on cases. Obviously we design it carefully, but we didn't go through the full workflow, sort of start to end of cases, and what are all the bits we could do with it, just because of time constraints. And when we get back to it, I think that what you're talking about with letters linked to stages and some other parts could come with it, but we don't have immediate plans to do that. Someone's using a Gmail calendar and it's doubled up in appointments page. So this is a search function for our calendar, it looks like. I think that would be really good. I think that's a good idea. I hadn't considered before, but that makes a lot of sense. So someone's asking now, someone to be able to book virtual only. I assume this is like telehealth or something, appointments, but only at certain times of the day. So I know that we've had requests in the past for sort of segmenting your diary to say these types of appointments at these times, and it's always been something we would like to do. But again, with the way we've set up our calendar right now, it was very hard to achieve. But with telehealth coming about, I think that it's become, significantly more compelling, because you might not even be in the clinic at certain hours, even though you're available for those sessions. So I don't have any progress on it, but I agree that the priority of that particular one has raised a lot, and I do hope we can get to it soon. Someone's asking with the client forms, when you have multiple options, can they select more than one option? You can, you just use checkboxes instead of radio buttons, and then they can just tick as many as they want in that list. So someone else on the calendar, Elaine, is asking about when you make changes to your schedule, it happens immediately, and they want to be able to make a change that maybe happens in future. So maybe you're changing your schedule in 2 weeks, or going on holiday, or whatever else might be. Again, the way we store the dates in Cliniko has prevented us from doing it so far, but we do want to change it. I'm not sure quite when we'll get to it. But we need to change it for 2 reasons. We need to change it so that you can set your schedule different in future. And we also need to change it so that we know historically what hours you worked. Because at the moment, we only know what your current schedule rules are. We don't know what hours you worked in the past, and that affects our ability to do reporting. So as an example, we can't report on utilization rates because we don't know what hours you worked previously. So a change is needed there. I'm just not sure when we will get to do so. A question about online booking form, more customizable. I agree. Again, I don't know when we get to that one, but for sure you should be in control of it. The only thing actually I've mentioned, because they noted date of birth they don't want. Date of birth is fantastic for us to know who the patient is, because as you probably notice, when someone books in online bookings, we work out, is this an existing patient or is it a new patient? And we need to use the information they provide to help us do so. And date of birth is such a sort of unique bit of information that it's very good for us in confirming that. So we want to make it configurable, but there's some stuff we have there functionally to match up patients to existing ones. Someone asked about more than one mobile number in a client's file. You can have more than one mobile number. I think you can choose which one to SMS as far as one-off SMSs, but with our sort of automated reminder system, it just chooses the first one. Maybe that's something we could let you specify if that's what you're asking about, Charmaine. Someone's asking about adding a birthday icon on the calendar so that the reception knows that it's someone's birthday. We're very limited to icons on the calendar because we don't have a lot of room there, but I agree that you should know if it's someone's birthday when they turn up in the room, so you can be nice about it. Maybe again, if someone in our team can flag that one about some way that the reception can know it's someone's birthday, because at the moment it's only on the patient page that we show it. Someone's asking if you've sent out a form in the initial confirmation and they don't fill it out, could they get a reminder for that? I think that would be good. We don't have any current plans for it, but I think that's a good idea. Someone's asking for our roadmap at a macro level. So we don't really have. We kind of go on the philosophy that, instead of planning for 6 months ahead, in 6 months we will know better what we should work on than we know right now. So we have an idea of, the direction we want Cliniko to head, obviously, but we spend a lot more time planning this week, next week, the coming weeks, than we do looking forward 6 months or 12 months. And by that I mean we really don't do that at all. So all the stuff, we gather the feature requests that people want. We have a development board or sort of ideas that we want to work on. But really, as far as like what we design out and what we actually are working on. We know what we're working on right now, and when someone finishes working on something, we look at what's available and they pick up the next thing that feels like it's the highest priority at that point in time, and we kind of trust that we will have the most information then. Like right now, I'm getting a lot of information from you all with these questions and comments, and I will know better things to work on tomorrow than I knew yesterday. So we kind of work just a little step ahead, but not so far in front. Someone's mentioned that when they're booking online, they need to re-enter the information every time. There is a save details option down the bottom that they should be able to use. Perhaps if they're using their browser in private mode, it won't save them, but the option's there for them. They shouldn't have to retype them every time. Someone's asking about recording an audio file directly into Cliniko. So not directly into Cliniko, but you can easily attach files into Cliniko. And on your phone, there's plenty of ways to store memos. On your computer, if you're on Mac, you can use QuickTime to record audio. There's a bunch of options. I don't think we'll build that part of it into Cliniko, but there's plenty of ways to store, to record it, and then you can store it in Cliniko afterwards. There's a question about how we do discounts. It's currently calculated on the post-tax balance. Ideally, it would be pre-tax. Maybe again, if we can flag that one, and I'll have a chat to someone in our team. I don't understand that well enough myself. We just need to make sure we do it the right way, and we can have a look at it. Someone's asking about having all locations on the same page on their calendar. We have had this before. I think ideally, yes, we would have it. There's no reason why not, but it's not something we have planned for right now, and realistically, I'm not sure it's going to hit high enough priority that it will be worked on in the near future. I think there's a lot that will sit ahead of it, so probably it won't happen too soon. Asking about a way to export the waiting list. I don't think there is, but there should be. So again, that's one that maybe we can flag separately and have a look at, because again, like I mentioned before, we want you to be able to get everything out of Cliniko. If you can't do the wait list, you should be able to. It's a question on bulk process payments from contacts. I'm not sure what you mean by that. That's from foot mechanics. If you could provide some more detail on what you mean, I could have a go at that one. By the way, if you're interested, my coffee's got better as it cooled. While it was hot, it had the bitterness, and now it's much better. Someone's asking about the icons on the calendar obscuring the name of the calendar. I know we had some design work that was going on for the calendar, and it's been shelved at the moment. We're working on some other redesigns. But yes, at some point, we're going to get back and look at the actual calendar items themselves, and we will improve. A question about the online bookings flow, which is the ability to select multiple locations and then just choose an appointment for any of them rather than having to choose a location. I can't see a reason why we couldn't do it. We did put in the any practitioner option. I don't know why we couldn't do any location. I would just have to have a look into it. It's probably not something we'll do right away, but I see no reason why we couldn't be doing something like that. It's a question about where's this glass treehouse place hideaway at. It's in Healesville, so in Victoria. Patient form templates need to have much more functionality. The form's too simplistic. So Chantel, we're working on the patient forms. I think that the redesign for them we're working on at the moment will solve many or most needs that people have for that form. I think it's going to be really good. When will we see Cliniko Omnibox or Spotlight type thing to search for anything? I would love to have that. I use it all the time myself. I'm on my Mac. It's the only way I open applications is opening Spotlight. I think having that in Cliniko would be excellent. I don't know when. We definitely want to do it in the settings area as well, because there's a lot of settings now and make it easier to find what you're looking for. But it would be great. It would be one I would enjoy to have. Leanne's asking about locking invoice and payments in Cliniko. I suspect it's not something we would do. I can understand the need for it once something has been lodged, but I'm not sure that it's something that Cliniko will impose upon people. It's probably got to be a business process where people are instructed not to do so rather than us actually locking out the invoices. Another question about pour over versus Aeropress. I think it's that it comes out cleaner for me. I don't know if you can see if I hold this up to the camera, but it's like a really light color and really clean and lacking sediment in the coffee. And I find I struggle to do the same with Aeropress. Someone's asking about adding an icon on the appointment screen to show if a patient is under 18. They're currently writing minor. It's pretty specific, and I'm not like, maybe I need to know more what you're going to use it for to see if it's something we can accommodate or something we can accommodate in a more generic way. But I'm not sure that's something that we would do at this stage. Someone's asking about changing the color of the appointment after an invoice is paid because the little icons aren't enough. I know that our designer really dislikes the little icons we have and the way we do it, so I could see some redesign coming. I don't know if it'll be changing the appointment or color or what might come about, but I think we can get creative with it when we come around to redesigning those. The question, is this my kitchen or the office kitchen, and is anyone allowed to use your coffee toys? So it's a bit of both. So this is, I do live here, well, in a house next to here, but this is a barn that we renovated because we do team meetups out here. So for those that don't know, the Cliniko team is all remote and spread around the world. We have, I think we're almost 40 of us, and in many different countries. And so not during COVID-19, but otherwise, we would have meetups where people come out to Australia once or twice a year, you know, a group of people from the team up to, we've had maybe 25 out here, and we'll have a meetup for a couple of weeks. So this is a space that we use for those meetups. And then I have the very good fortune of having the ability to use it at other times as well. Schedulers can't see archived patients, so if a patient rebooked for a new injury, the scheduler can't pull up the info. That might be one that, again, if someone on our team can flag it, we'll just have a look at it. I imagine that, you know, it shouldn't be the case like that. They should be able to see archived patients. We can just check into that. And that's also, Elaine, a good one. If you encounter something like that that feels like it's not working correctly, at any time you can just send that in through help within Cliniko itself. You don't need to wait for a session like this. You can do it like that. Would it be a big job to have the option to show the Medicare number and reference number on invoices at the patient's level? Maybe again with that one, it's a good example. If you send that in through our help with details on exactly what you want to put on the invoice, why you want to have it, any more information, this is, you've come up as reception front desk, but if you can send that through to us with details, then we can have a look at it properly. All right. We have a few to go, and we probably wrap up this session soon. Before we get to that point though, maybe if Martina or someone from our team in the chat, we do have a feedback form we put together that would be great when we finish this session, if you wouldn't mind filling out. This is a new type of session that we haven't done before, and want to see how you found it, if it's useful to you, if it's something that you'd like to join and attend again. So I think Martina will link the form for you in the comments, and just when it's done, if you don't mind filling it out, I would appreciate it. We're just trying to find what things we can do to support you better, and if this is a format and something useful, then we can continue doing so again. I'll get back to some of these questions. Yeah, so again, talking about scheduling, there's one from reception front desk, scheduling for a period of time, which we've talked about. Just on that, you can do one-off availabilities or one-off unavailable blocks to block out. So you can use those right now to achieve it, but we know it's not ideal, and we would like to have you be able to set schedules for different times. But right now you can make it happen. It's just a little bit cumbersome. Peter's got a question, a function to set up debtors for insurance cases. So Peter, I don't understand much about that or what the need is or how it would work. It's probably a good one to either put on community.cliniko.com feature request with some details so we can chat about it there, or send it in through help within Cliniko, because I don't think I'm going to add much value to in the discussion without skilling up on it a little bit myself. It would be great to change the default appointment type for the waitlist too. I don't know, maybe someone from our team that's in the chat can help out in that one. I don't know what, I would have thought that when you add them to there, I don't even know how it works. If it's just a default for the waitlist that you can't choose, then yeah, we should do, because you have a default for practitioners, it'd be ideal to use that if they're picking a practitioner. I don't know, but maybe someone in our team could answer that better than me in the chat. Keith's asking prepaid credits tagged by family. I don't know yet, because we haven't got, we do have the way to sort of pay in advance. We don't have any functionality that's really tying a family together at the moment. So I think that, yes, in principle, Keith, I would like to do it, but I don't even know how it would look or when it would come about, because there's a few precursors to it that we haven't achieved yet. Looking at the appointment schedule report, it defaults to all practitioners. Can it default to all businesses? I'm not sure about that. We might be able to get some metrics out of Cliniko to see what people are doing more often, and if people are most commonly doing all businesses, we could change the default. I would have to check into it. I don't know if that's a good change for us to make across the board. Someone's asking about, again, the color of a raised invoice and a paid consult. So I think there's going to be some redesign to the appointments on the calendar at some point. I know that the icons aren't enough to indicate that, but I don't know what it will look like yet at this point. Question on purchase orders. We don't have a place to store them at the moment. I don't understand a lot about the purchase orders myself. Maybe they could go in as a file attachment if it's just for storing them. There wouldn't be like a true purchase order in Cliniko, but it would just be stored as a file. But maybe again that would be good for the community site to flesh out the details of and understand it better. So I'm going to do just a few more questions and finish up this session, but it's also notable to mention you can of course send these questions through to us at any time via Helping Cliniko, and you can also raise the feature requests on the forum, and pending, we'll see what comes back in the feedback form, but if this is useful, I will do these again as well to be able to answer your questions quickly for you. I'm just going to skim through the last questions here and just check any key ones that I think I could answer well for you, or a useful person to be answering it. A question if I was a coffee sommelier. Well, this one's I should definitely answer myself. Not at all. So actually, I even didn't drink coffee for a whole long time, and then got back into it about maybe 6 years ago, and just kind of one of those things where I feel like if I was going to do it, I want to do it well and research a bit. So I've just practiced and learned, and maybe the big catalyst for me was I used to drink a lot of lattes, and then started not feeling like having a milky drink each day, so moved to filter, and then with filter it was hard to get a good coffee, so I needed to learn more about it to make a coffee that I enjoy. So I think there's a few more questions that are still there. I won't get to them at the moment because I don't have anything particularly helpful with them. They're around the payment side of things, which, my knowledge is only strong in some areas with these bits. What I would suggest, if you haven't had your question answered through this session, like I said, do send it through to help. If it's a feature request, feel free to go to community.cliniko.com and raise them on the site there. We do read everything that goes on that site. And if you can, there's a feedback form linked in the comments here. If you could just fill that out, let us know how you found this session. And then, like I said, if it's useful and positive and people would like another one, we can run these again. I'm more than happy to help out and answer questions that people have. So thanks everyone for joining, and likely I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.